She lost her daughter's birthday, but a millionaire's shocking move changed everything forever. The town of Millstone was buzzing, every single person glued to their screens, eyes wide with disbelief as the news broke. A daughter gone, a birthday missed. Emily, the beloved local teacher, had woken up to a cruel twist of fate. Her little girl, Lily, had vanished into thin air just as she celebrated her 7th birthday. It felt like a nightmare. The sun had barely risen, painting the sky a vivid orange, when this tragedy struck. The kids were supposed to head to the park, balloons and cake in tow, when panic swallowed the day. In the days that followed, whispers filled the air, strange sightings near the old mill, late-night shadows lurking behind the trees. Emily's heart raced every time she heard sirens, each wail a reminder of her missing daughter. What did she do wrong? How could this happen? And just as hope seemed lost, a flicker of hope arrived. A name emerged from the chaos: Marcus Sinclair, the reclusive billionaire who lived on the outskirts of town. His life was shrouded in mystery, steeped in rumors of past scandals. What could he possibly want with a missing child? The town buzzed, but no one could have predicted the shocking twist of fate that was about to unfold. The police had ruled out foul play, but strange gifts began arriving at Emily's doorstep: an emerald-studded locket, a handwritten note that read, "Life's choices are often more powerful than we understand." Confusion blended with desperation as she pieced together the fragments of these bizarre gifts. Each one carried an eerie charm, hinting that Marcus knew more than he was letting on. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As Emily dove deeper into the mystery, she couldn't shake the feeling that every gift, every clue, was leading her back to Marcus. Was he a savior or a predator? She stood before the old mill one evening, the sun setting, casting long shadows that danced around her. A figure appeared in the distance, tall and haunting. Was it him? Was the truth about to unearth itself? She felt her heart pound, a mix of fear and resolve flooding her body. In that moment, she had to decide what she was willing to risk to find her daughter. Suddenly, an ear-piercing scream echoed through the trees. Was it just her imagination or a plea for help? Emily's breath hitched, her heart racing as that scream sliced through the stillness like a knife. It wove into her thoughts, igniting a primal instinct within her. She mustered her courage and darted toward the sound, the moonlight guiding her way. The shadows around the old mill seemed alive, shifting and pulsing as she called out, "Lily. Is that you?" There was no answer, just an heavy silence that pressed against her chest. Her pulse dominated the world around her, hammering in her ears. Every tree looked like a sinister specter, every rustle a potential threat. The scream had been real, she was sure of it. But where had it come from? Rushing forward, she felt the cool dampness of the earth beneath her shoes, her instincts sharper than ever. The scream had come from somewhere deeper in the woods, just beyond the line of trees where the mill loomed ominously in the fading light. "We'll find you, Lily," she whispered, the promise serving as her lifeline. With trembling hands, she pushed aside branches, heedless of the scratches in the dirt, her focus only on reaching that sound again. Then, she spotted a flicker of movement, something pink glinting in the moonlight. A small backpack, its colors dulled with dirt but unmistakable. Her stomach churned as she recognized it. It was Lily's. "No, no, no." The word burst from her, a desperate plea that echoed through the trees. Just then, a figure emerged from the shadows. It took her a moment to process the sight. Dressed in dark clothing, the man held something in his hand. Was it a weapon? Emily pulled back instinctively, hoping she was hidden enough that he wouldn't notice her. "Marcus!" she shouted, frustration and fear merging in a chaotic crescendo. "What are you doing here? Where is my daughter?" His face was stern, but she saw a flicker of something undefinable in his eyes as he turned toward her. "Emily," he replied, his voice low and steady. You shouldn't be out here. It's too dangerous. Dangers come in all shapes and sizes, and right now, you're the last person I trust, she shot back, inching closer, every fiber of her being telling her to be cautious. She glanced down at the backpack, her heart crying out for hope, yet a chill settled inside her. Listen, he said, holding up his hands. I'm trying to help you. I know things. I know what happened to Lily. Time froze. Her heart raced, a war of hope and skepticism waging in her chest. What do you mean you know? Where is she? Before he could respond, there was another sound, a crunching of leaves behind her. Emily's heart plummeted as she turned, feeling exposed and alarmed. Had someone else been following her? To her dismay, two figures emerged from the shadows, and they were not welcoming. Their faces were masked, expressions hidden beneath dark hoods. Get away from him! One shouted, stepping forward, a menacing glint in his eye. Panic surged through Emily. Marcus took a step back, wrapping a protective arm around her, and she could feel the heat radiating from him. Run, Emily! He urged, fiercely. The world spiraled into chaos. Before she could think, she bolted, dragging Marcus with her into the thicket, the shadows clinging to them as terror chased their every step. What must have felt like an eternity passed before they skidded to a halt, panting in the dark. In that moment of suspended silence, Emily's mind raced. Could Marcus be trusted? Could he truly lead her to Lily? And who were those figures? Before she could articulate her thoughts, the chilling echo of a voice enveloped them. You can't escape us. Fear flooded her veins anew. The chase was only just beginning. What had they stumbled into? And would she ever find her daughter? The moon stood high, casting a cold glow that barely penetrated the heavy canopy of leaves overhead. Emily's breath was shallow, her thoughts racing as she gripped Marcus's arm, adrenaline sharpening her senses to a razor's edge. The ominous voice still lingered in her ears, prickling her skin with dread. Who are they? She hissed, trying to keep her voice low while scanning the dark woods for movement. Each rustle made her heart leap. There's no time to explain. We have to keep moving. Marcus insisted, pulling her toward a narrow path that wound deeper into the trees. She felt the urgency in his grip, desperation wrapped around them like the mist. They darted into the shadows, stumbling over roots and gnarled branches as they kept away from the noise. Every snap of a twig, every whisper of wind felt like it could be their last. Emily couldn't shake the sight of that pink backpack from her mind. It weighed down her stomach with dread. Wait, she said, pulling Marcus back. What do you mean you know what happened to Lily? You need to tell me. He hesitated, glancing over his shoulder as a distant crack of a branch echoed through the silence. The black market. It's bigger than you think. I saw someone who looked like her. Who? Where? Her voice rose despite her attempts to control it. The anger mixed with fear thrust her into the role of the protector. If Marcus had seen Lily, it was imperative he revealed every detail, but Marcus shook his head. If we talk too long, they'll find us. Just trust me, we need to get to my car. That's where we'll be safe. Safe? She echoed incredulously. You just revealed that someone has my daughter, and you want me to get in your car? How do I know you're not leading me into a trap? The intensity in his eyes told her he was genuinely frightened. I promise you, I've been investigating this for months. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think you were in danger. A sharp noise cut through the tension. A scuffle, barely perceptible, just a few feet away. Emily's heart thudded in her chest. They're here. Before she could react, Marcus surged forward, grabbing her wrist and pulling her along. They rushed down the winding path, the darkness threatening to envelop them. But just as they made it to a clearing, two masked figures stumbled into view, blocking their escape route like phantoms of the night. Nowhere to run, one of them sneered, brandishing a weapon that glinted wickedly in the moonlight. Run to the trees! Emily shouted, an instinct for survival igniting within her. They veered off course, diving back into the dense undergrowth. She could hear her pulse thundering in her ears, drowning out the world as they slipped through branches and leaves. Suddenly, Marcus stopped. "This way," he urged, leading her to an old, abandoned shed. It looked as if it had been untouched for years, vines overtaking the walls. Breathless, Emily stepped inside, trying to control her racing heart. Shadows lingered like lurking dangers, but it felt oddly safe. She leaned against a wall, trying to catch her breath. "Tell me everything," she insisted, her eyes searching his. "You have to tell me about my daughter." Marcus's expression shifted, sorrow flickered in his gaze as he lowered his voice. "They take children for different reasons. It's a ring specializing in trafficking, they pay a lot for girls." The words hit her like a slap. "That can't be true. She is just a little girl." His expression turned somber, and for a moment, Emily saw his vulnerability. "I know. But we have to be smart. The moment we leave this place, we're exposed. They could be just outside." As fear wrapped around her like a cold blanket, another noise echoed outside shouting, "Chaos!" Emily tensed. Had they tracked them? "Marcus?" she whispered, her heart racing. But he was fixed on the door, his eyes darting around. "We need to move. Now." And then, just when hope seemed to hang on a thread, a chilling sound pierced the air, a scream, unmistakably familiar, rising up into the night. "Lily!" The name tore from Emily's throat, both a prayer and a plea. What were they going to find once they stepped outside? The nightmare wasn't over yet, it had merely begun to unfold. And as Emily clenched her fists, determination flooding her veins, she knew one thing for certain: she would face whatever came next to find her daughter. Once outside, the darkness loomed heavier than ever. What would they encounter in the night? And could they truly still be in time to save her? The scream echoed through the trees, slicing the night air with a raw, desperate energy that made Emily's blood run cold. Panic surged within her, igniting a fire in her chest as she grabbed Marcus's arm tightly. "We have to go. We have to help her." "Wait." Marcus forced her to pause, his voice low but steady. "We don't even know who we're up against. We can't walk into a trap." The sounds outside were unyielding, a mix of shouts, thudding footsteps, and something that sounded like metal clashing against metal. Emily held her breath, listening intently. "She is out there," Emily insisted, urgency spilling from her lips. "We can't just sit here." "No, we can't," he conceded, glancing toward the door again, his face pale in the dim moonlight filtering through cracks in the shed. "But we need a plan." "Plan? Like we have the luxury for that?" she snapped, her fear morphing into frustration. "What if they take her somewhere we can't reach? What if enough?" Marcus's tone turned sharp, pulling her from her spiral. The intensity in his eyes held her, demanding her focus. "Listen to me. If we go charging out there, we might lose both you and Lily. We need to find a way around them." The tension in Emily's muscles vibrated as she swallowed hard. "Fine. But we have to act fast," she said, grit tightening her jaw. Marcus nodded, drawing in a breath before pushing the door open just a crack. The faint sound of voices grew louder outside, but the shed was cloaked in shadows that masked their presence. She could barely make out two figures, tall and imposing, blocking the entrance to the clearing. "There," she whispered, nodding towards a small window at the back of the shed, barely large enough to squeeze through. "We can try to get out that way." "Are you sure?" Marcus eyed it nervously. "It's a risk. Once we're out, we're exposed." "It's a risk I'm willing to take for my daughter," Emily replied fiercely, her heart thundering at the thought of Lily facing danger alone. Keeping their voices hushed, they stepped quietly to the window. Emily climbed up first, pushing aside the rotting wood and poking her head out. The coast looked clear, but the urgency of the situation turned her stomach. "Go," she whispered, feeling the branches tug at her clothes. She swung one leg over, then the other, and landed softly on the damp ground outside. "Careful." Marcus followed her, and they crouched low, peeking around the shed. The masked figures were now animated, gesturing wildly as they spoke to someone who was hidden from view. We need to get behind that thick grove of trees, Marcus said quietly, pointing a finger toward the dense brush a few yards away. Emily nodded, sucking in a breath and steeling herself. On 3. 1 2 Suddenly, the sound of barking from somewhere close made her heart leap. The masked men turned at the noise, eyes narrowing as they recovered from their animated discussion. Go! Emily blurted, sprinting toward the trees, adrenaline coursing through her. Marcus followed closely. The undergrowth snagged at her shoes as she pushed through, branches scratching her cheek, but there was no time for pain. Once behind the shelter of the trees, they paused, panting. We have to keep moving, Marcus urged, glancing anxiously back the way they came. We cannot let them find us. They'll be combing the area now. But before she could respond, another scream echoed through the night, this one more desperate, more agonized. It pierced through her, twisting the knife of fear deeper. Lily! Emily gasped, the sound unraveling her. Emily, Marcus's voice was trembling. We can't go back. We need a plan. But at that very moment, a larger figure stepped into the flickering light spilling through the trees, silhouette ominous and unmistakable. A shiver raced down Emily's spine as recognition hit her. Marcus, she whispered, her eyes widening. Is that? Before he could answer, the figure growled out a command, authority dripping from each word. The night had turned darker, and the chilling reality settled in. She was running out of time. What had she stumbled into? What dark secrets lay ahead? Each step forward was fraught with uncertainty, but as she turned to Marcus, determination hardened in her gut. Come on. We need to find a way to get to her. And as they stepped deeper into the shadows, Emily caught herself wondering if this was the beginning of the end or merely the beginning of a far greater nightmare. The tension hung thick in the air as Emily and Marcus pressed deeper into the trees, shadows swallowing them whole. Every rustle in the foliage felt like a harbinger of doom, the world outside their small cocoon of safety a twisted theater of horror. What do you want to do? Marcus whispered hoarsely, scanning the darkened area around them, his eyes darting like a frightened animal. He was relying on her. She could feel the weight of that expectation resting heavy on her shoulders. We can't just rush in without knowing more. A low voice echoed through the night, callous and commanding. Search the perimeter. She couldn't have gone far. The masked figures moved like predators, searching for a lost prey. The mere sound of their voices made Emily's stomach churn. It was them. The sound of metal clanging reached her ears again, stirring memories of past traumas. She clenched her fists, nails digging into her palms as she fought the rising dread within her. We have to find a way to flank them. If they're all out looking for her, then what? Marcus interrupted, panic edging his tone. What happens if we get caught? Then will. The words died on her lips as another scream pierced the darkness, raw and full of anguish. It was more poignant than before, tearing through her resolve. Lily! Emily cried, the name almost a prayer. Each syllable felt like a stab to her heart. A shushing sound came from Marcus, but she could only focus on the echoes of her daughter's voice, the desperation clawing at her insides. We can't stay here. We have to go. Now. All right, but we stay quiet. Marcus's urgency transformed into a quiet conviction as he gripped her arm. Stay close. They slinked through the trees, hearts racing with every step. The night was a living thing, alive with sounds that were simultaneously terrifying and real. She could feel Marcus's anxiety buzzing beside her, each breath shared taut with urgency. The underbrush rustled again, and she froze. A light flickered through the trees, illuminating an area just ahead. This way. Emily urged, moving toward the dim glow filtering through another set of trees. As they approached, the silhouettes of more masked figures emerged, congregating around a flickering fire. It painted a grim picture, and her breath caught. In the center was a table, but it wasn't adorned with festive decorations. No, it was full of dark implements glinting menacingly in the firelight. What do you think they're doing? Marcus whispered, his voice trembling with dread. I don't know, but we can't let them find us, Emily murmured, scanning the area for their next move. Suddenly, something in the shadows shifted. Emily's blood froze as she froze in place, her mouth dry. A flicker of movement caught her eye, and she squinted to get a better look. There, behind a large tree, was someone struggling. Lily! She screamed, rushing forward without thinking. Emily! No! Marcus hissed, but she was already sprinting toward the light. As she broke through the tree line, her hair whipped against her face and the fire's warmth washed over her. The masked figures turned, startled. The frantic movement sent her heart racing. Lily! She shouted again, her voice rising above the crackle of the flames. In the chaos, eyes were now on her, surprise morphed into anger as they moved to block her path. The dreadful realization hit her like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just running toward her daughter, she was walking straight into a trap. Marcus! She yelled, feeling tears mixing with the fear coursing through her. The moment stretched infinitely, as the world tilted dangerously. As the masked figures advanced, moving in a tight formation, she felt the desperate need to flee to snatch her daughter away from this nightmare, and then, in that very instant, a knife glinted in the darkness, poised and ready. Run! Marcus's voice rang out, sharp and clear, cutting through the haze of terror, but Emily hesitated. Could she leave Lily behind? Then she heard it, the low whimper of her daughter, lost and afraid, and everything inside her ignited. The forest swirled in. Shadows and panic, but desperation drove her forward. There was no going back now. What awaited her in that dim light? Would she find her daughter or plunge into an even deeper abyss? With fear wrapping around her heart like a vice, she lunged toward the mystery that lurked ahead, every instinct screaming that she was racing against the clock in a game she didn't fully understand. Courage took its form as her feet carried her closer, but as the knife flashed beneath the firelight, Emily realized she might not be the only one pushing forward. Was there someone else hiding in the dark, manipulating the strings of this sinister web? The truth was lurking, and with each step, she felt it closing in. The air crackled with tension as Emily lunged toward the flickering fire. Her heart pounded in her chest, a wild drumbeat urging her to break free from the tightening grip of fear. Each stride felt like a gamble, towing the line between salvation and disaster. Lily! She shouted again, her voice cracking, cutting through the thick night like a knife. The masked figures squared off, merging together into a wall of impending doom. Their breaths were heavy, eyes hidden but palpably fixated on her as if she were a hunted animal. With desperate determination, she sprinted across the clearing, each footfall sending jolts of adrenaline coursing through her veins. The warmth of the fire cast a menacing glow on the scene, illuminating not just the tools of terror but also her daughter's tiny silhouette beside the table. Mommy! Lily's voice was a fragile plea, woven through where fear and hope collided. Emily's heart twisted at the sight of her, held firmly by one of those masked figures, terror seeping into the cracks of the girl's brave facade. Let her go! Emily's scream surged like a wave, but it only triggered the predators around her. They moved closer, encircling her with menacing grins peeking from their disguises, their intentions sharper than the blades they carried. Looks like the little birdie decided to fly home, one of them taunted, voice drawn out, dripping with malice. Mommy! Lily whimpered again, struggling against her captor, but the grip was tightening. Sweat beaded on Emily's brow, the panic rising from the pit of her stomach. Every inch felt like a stone weighing her down. Marcus! She shouted, her eyes scanning for him. He had been her anchor in this storm, but now he seemed lost in the chaos. Would he be torn apart in this dark play of horrors as they all surged forward? Get away from her! Marcus burst through the tree line. He was a blur of motion, raw fury etched across his face. His resolve filled the air. Emily nearly felt the ground shake beneath her feet with the intensity of his voice. The mob turned their gaze toward Marcus, surprise flashing in their eyes. For a breath, she thought the grip on Lily might weaken, but it only hardened. Stay back, or the girl pays the price, growled a figure, raising his knife menacingly. Emily's heart raced, legs almost buckling beneath her. This wasn't just about escaping, it was a battle for Lily's life. Rage mixed with dread inside her, constricting her chest so much it felt like she couldn't breathe. Just let her go, she implored, eyes locked with her daughter's terrified gaze. The masked figures laughed, a sound that reverberated like a death knell in her ears. You think we're here to play fair? One sneered that hellish laughter echoed, and in that moment, something within Emily crackled to life. She couldn't let fear determine this fight. "Marcus, we need to create a distraction," she yelled, adrenaline fueling her as she plotted their way out. "I'm on it," Marcus affirmed, slipping back into the shadows. Emily's resolve stiffened. With a quick glance at her daughter, she steeled herself. She had to buy them time, knowing every second counted. But these creatures could smell fear, and she dared not show it. As Marcus circled away, her eyes darted, seeking anything that could turn the tide. The glint of a rusted chain caught her attention near the table. It was chaotic, but a plan began to form. If she could draw them closer, create a diversion, hey! She called out abruptly, her voice slicing through the laughter. "You don't care about her, do you? You just want to see what I'll do next." The figures paused, shifting their focus back to her. Maybe it was a game they wanted to play. "Free the girl, and I'll show you something much more entertaining," Emily challenged, her own breath hitching at the risk in her words. The danger was suffocating, but this was her moment. The glimmers of curiosity sparked in their sinister eyes. They stepped closer, intrigued. Now, the seconds ticked like time bombs. Would her ruse work? Did Marcus have the plan set in motion? Everything hinged on her next move, and she was frantic to break this cycle of chaos. As the masked figures advanced, realization struck her like a thunderbolt. There was something darker at play here, pulling strings behind the curtain. With her heart pumping, she could only hope that Marcus was ready. A chilling laugh broke through the air, resonating from the treeline just as a shadow emerged. It was a figure cloaked in darkness, commanding and confident. Even from a distance, a sense of peril crackled around them. Emily's heart sank. Who was this new player in their deadly game? Hope mingled dangerously with dread. Everything was spiraling, and the night held secrets that not even she could predict. Would they reach Lily in time, or had the web of danger ensnared them all? The darkness deepened as the new figure stepped forward, the cloaked silhouette casting an unsettling shadow over the masked group. Emily's heart pounded against her ribcage, fear and hatred swelling in her chest. She could feel the warmth of the fire behind her, but it felt cold in light of the horror unfolding before her. Their attention shifted from Emily to the newcomer, and that sharp flutter of curiosity among the masked figures caught her off guard. Who was this person? What influence did they hold? As the light from the flickering fire caught the edges of the cloak, Emily's instinct screamed at her to stay alert. "Let her go, and we can discuss things," the cloaked figure said, voice smooth yet laced with authority, as if drawing a line in the sand. The leader of the masked figures hesitated, his grip on Lily trembling for just a moment. "And why would we want to do that?" he hissed, looking more intimidated than Emily had ever seen. Emily seized the moment. "Because you'll regret it if you don't." Each word felt like an arrow, aimed to pierce through the veil of danger that surrounded them. "This isn't a game. You're playing with lives." Lily's whimper cut through the tension, pulling her mother's focus back. But the sight of the shadowy figure seemed to grip the mob with more uncertainty than she had. The masked figures shifted, murmurs of doubt creeping into their ranks. "Is that so?" the new figure replied, a smile indistinct under the cloak. "I think there are far worse ways to handle a situation like this." The leader of the group took a step back, confusion flaring in his eyes. Emily tried to use that moment, her mind racing. Maybe this mysterious figure was their way out, maybe they were the surprise ally she desperately needed. "Listen to them," she urged, her breath hitching in her throat. "They have Lily. You can't treat this lightly." As if sensing her mounting desperation, the cloaked figure took a step toward the masked man, emanating a confidence that made Emily both nervous and hopeful. "Do you even know who you're dealing with?" "This isn't just a game of strength," they said, addressing the captors directly. "Now, it's a game of wit." The leader shifted, pulling Lily closer, but there was a flicker of fear in his eyes. "You don't scare me," he spat. "Then you don't know all the pieces on the board," the figure replied, their tone now commanding. "You think you control this scenario? Let us see what happens when I take away your advantage." Suddenly, the night air was pierced by a sound that made Emily's heart jump, a loud crash from the other side of the clearing. It reverberated like a gunshot, the sound of something heavy crashing through the underbrush. The masked figures turned, panic flashing across their faces. "Now!" the cloaked figure shouted, and it struck Emily like a bolt of lightning. This was the distraction Marcus needed. With adrenaline surging, she lunged forward, her heart racing as she darted toward her daughter. "Lily! I'm coming!" The masked figures were confused, rotating to glance at the source of the crash. In that moment, Emily dove for her daughter, rising fast just as she reached her. She could feel her little body trembling, and it ignited a fire in her own heart. In swift motion, Emily reached for the chain she had spotted earlier. She grabbed it like a lifeline, her fingers tightening around the rusted metal. "Get ready, Lily!" she called, breathing hard. But as the masked figures turned back, the laughter rang out again from the cloak. "Did you really think you were the only one with a plan?" The ground seemed to shake as the cloaked figure raised their hand, and at that moment, all hell broke loose. A second crash echoed, and something huge surged from the shadows. The air trembled, and Emily's heart dropped. What had they unleashed? As chaos erupted, she felt a rush of clarity mixed with terror. There was no going back now, they had stepped into a storm that could swallow them whole. "Marcus!" she yelled, searching frantically for him through the chaos as the masked figures scrambled, confusion swelling. Into chaos. In the blur of movement, she caught a glimpse of something shocking, a familiar, once friendly face now twisted with malice, sneering from the sidelines. With horror, she realized the web of deception was deeper than she ever could have imagined. Was there anyone she could trust? Just when she thought she understood the game, a new player had entered and everything was about to change. The ground convulsed as massive shapes emerged from the shadows, the chaos rendering Emily momentarily dumbfounded. Just moments ago, there had been hope, a flicker of salvation. Now, it felt like the very ground she stood on was betraying her. "Lily, hold on tight!" she shouted, yanking her daughter closer. The masked figures scrabbled backward, eyes wide. Some stumbled into the underbrush, while others seemed paralyzed by growing dread. What was coming at them? From the edge of the clearing, the creature broke free, its form shifting in the moonlight. Fear slithered through Emily as she recognized it, a wild boar, snorting and furious, charging through the underbrush with force. But it wasn't just a boar, it was the size of a small car, wild and undisciplined, a beast that could thrash through anything in its path. The cloaked figure stood firm, gazing down the path where the creature barreled forward. "That's just a warning," they declared, their confidence unwavering against the backdrop of chaos. Emily's heart raced as the boar thundered closer. Carnivorous rage danced in its eyes. She felt the heat of urgency clawing at her chest. They were mere moments away from disaster if one errant move was made. "Get out of the way!" one of the masked figures screamed, breaking from the stunned crowd, sprinting to escape the oncoming wrath. But fear had eclipsed strategy, and in their panic, it was a desperate scramble to escape an oncoming nightmare. Emily didn't hesitate. She turned, arms enveloping Lily. "We need to move, now." But the confusion reigned, her commands caught in the tidal wave of chaos all around them. Just as the boar burst into the clearing, charging toward the figures, Emily spotted Marcus on the other side. He was moving through the chaos, determination etched into his features. Their eyes met. There was something fierce in the way he looked at her, a look that translated into an unspoken promise. They would make it through. But the masked group was collapsing under the weight of their own mistakes. One of them slipped and fell, and the boar, sensing a vulnerable target, veered sharply in that direction. "Watch out!" Emily screamed. Lily buried her face into her mother's shoulder, trembling at the ferocity of the moment. Emily's stomach tightened, every instinct screaming for survival. This was not just about saving each other, they had to escape the frenzy of these individuals, fools who thought they could play God with lives. As the boar rushed past the masked figure on the ground, the air filled with a horrible crash. A thud accompanied by a pained cry echoed across the clearing. Marcus reached out as he spotted them again, yet his path was blocked by figures still reeling from the shock. Out of the corner of her eye, Emily saw a chain tied around a tree, remnants of a forgotten trap. "Lily," she urged. "We can use that. Follow me." They sprinted toward the tree, weaving through the residual chaos. Just as she grabbed the chain, someone shouted, "We can't lose control." But Emily was moving too fast to register the warning, her adrenaline spurring her on. "This is our chance," she yelled over her shoulder, hoping Marcus heard her. Then, crushed voices blended with sorrowful wails, the roars of the boar drowning out everything else. The reality of their situation began to coalesce into a terrifying clarity. They weren't just fleeing the masked figures, they were fighting a fight that was no longer only about them. Just then, Emily felt a sharp tug at her leg. She glanced down in horror. One of the masked figures had tripped her, pulling her back into the unfolding chaos. The world was spinning now, and with it, her grasp on her daughter slipped. "No!" Emily shouted, panic flooding her veins. "Mommy!" Lily's cry pierced through the haze, but the ground was already swallowing her, shadows reaching out with unyielding hands. As she fell backward, desperately reaching out for Lily, a figure stepped into view different from the masked ones. A crooked smirk shone through the darkness. "You really thought this was going to end well?" Shock crashed over Emily as she recognized them, a figure she never expected to see again, turning the tide in a way she never envisioned, and in that moment, the realization sank in, the game wasn't even close to ending. It was only just beginning. The ground felt like it was shifting beneath Emily's body as she struggled to regain her footing. The world spun around her, a whirlwind of screams, grunts, and the guttural snorts of the enraged boar. She twisted back toward the sound of Lily's voice, her heart slamming against her ribs. Desperation coursed through her veins, she couldn't let go. "You don't have to do this," she yelled at the figure that loomed over her, a silhouette against the chaos. It was Mason, the one person she thought was gone forever, his features twisted into an unsettling grin. Rage ignited in her, boiling away the shock. How did he even get here, and why now? "Oh, but I do," he replied, his voice low and dripping with malice. "You see, Emily, you've always been the wild card in this mess. But now, everything is falling right into place." The climax of panic surged through the clearing as the boar charged wildly, its tusks glinting dangerously in the moonlight. The masked figures scrambled, desperately screaming for salvation, and, in their fear, they became helpless prey to the creature's wrath. "Let her go!" Emily shouted, twisting against Mason's grip, trying to shake off the memory of betrayal. He didn't have the right to take what she loved. "Not until you understand what's really happening," he snapped, his eyes gleaming with a twisted clarity. "You and your daughter are pivotal in this. Everything in this forest is connected to the curse, and to you." "Curse?" Emily gasped, feeling the air thin around her. She couldn't fathom what he was babbling about. The boar, meanwhile, had turned its attention back to the group, causing more chaos, more panic. But all Emily could hear was Mason's voice cutting through the noise, laden with secrets that felt too heavy to carry. In a flash of movement, she spotted Lily again, her daughter struggling against the throng of panicked bodies. Emily's heart dropped and surged. "No! Lily! Emily!" Lily cried again, tears glistening in her wide eyes as she reached through the chaos, a beacon of innocence amidst the terror. The monster loomed closer, a predator hungry for chaos, while Mason continued to clutch Emily with a grip that felt too much like a vice, merging fear with dread. "Listen!" Mason's voice rose above the ruckus. "You've always been oblivious to the truth. They're using you, don't you see? We can break the chains if you follow me now," she shouted, breaking free just enough to twist away. Energy surged into her limbs as she fought against Mason's hold, her intentions clear. She would save her daughter no matter the cost. Without thinking, Emily charged toward the chaotic scramble, every instinct screaming at her to get to Lily. She felt the adrenaline kick in, each step fueled by a mother's love and sheer desperation. The boar was still thrashing through the crowd, fury unleashed. She needed to get to her daughter before the chaos turned to tragedy. Mason's voice, now rising in a panicked call, faded as she sprinted through the fray. Just ahead, she saw Marcus again, and his eyes locked onto hers. They understood each other in that moment. He was fighting his way through to reach Lily, determination radiating from him. Then, as Emily pushed forward, she felt something sharp graze the back of her leg, a sudden pain that took her breath. She stumbled, but she couldn't stop. "Not now!" Flashes of light ignited in her peripheral vision, screams mingled with familiar voices, and an overwhelming fear blanketed the chaos as a tremor of understanding crashed over her. This battle wasn't just for survival. The chains tied to the woods were pulling at their very souls, intertwined with history and horror. Just as she reached the edge of a clearing, she locked eyes with Lily, who was still held back by the crowd around them. But that's when a low growl erupted from nearby, drawing Emily's attention again. The boar was no longer the only danger. "Look out!" she yelled to Marcus, but it was too late. Another shape emerged from the shadows. This one was bigger, silent as death itself. The moment hung thick with dread as they braced for impact, each heartbeat echoing louder than the last. And as darkness fell, Emily realized that the monsters they faced might be far worse than any beast in the woods. What could possibly be lurking behind the veil of civilization, waiting for the cover of night to strike? Emily's heart hammered against her chest as she fought to reach her daughter. The chaos swirled around her like a tempest, every voice and scream blending into an overwhelming din of terror. But there was one voice she couldn't shake: Lily's. Her daughter's name echoed in her ears, a desperate call cutting through the cacophony of the wild night. "Stay close to me," Marcus shouted, his eyes wide with fear and determination. He was right beside her, pushing through the crowd, and they shared a brief but fierce glance that ignited a flicker of hope. He was with her. They would find Lily. As they moved together, each step felt like a defiance against the darkness. Masked figures stumbled and fell, their terror feeding into the mayhem as the enormous boar lunged into the throng, a force of nature unrestrained. The spectacle was nightmarish, but it provided Emily with a chance. Just ahead, she spotted Lily, wedged between two figures, her little face contorted with fear. "Mommy!" she cried, reaching for her, every desperate syllable urging Emily forward. "Hold on, Lily. I'm coming." With newfound strength, Emily surged ahead, pushing past masked figures who, lost in their panic, were more interested in saving their own skin than holding their ground. Then it happened. One of the figures fell backward, colliding with Emily and unbalancing her momentarily. She felt herself tip, but Marcus was there, catching her. "We have to get to her now," he yelled, urgency pouring from every word. They fought their way through, until at last, Emily was almost there. With a fierce push, she reached for Lily, grasping her small hand, feeling the warmth of her daughter's skin against the cold grip of uncertainty surrounding them. "Mama!" Lily sobbed, relief flooding through her little voice just as the masked captor released their hold, bewildered by the wave of chaos around them. With a strength born from desperation, Emily yanked her daughter away and held her close, a protective shield against the frightful scene. "I've got you. I've got you," she whispered fiercely, feeling every ounce of fear fade under the fire of maternal instinct. "Now run!" Marcus shouted, his tone slicing through the haze of panic. Emily needed no further encouragement. They took off in the opposite direction, moving as fast as their legs would carry them, the flickering flames from the bonfire guiding their path like a beacon of hope. But then, a bone-chilling roar erupted, making the ground shake beneath them. The massive boar, now joined by another swirling beast, thrashed wildly. The chaos turned deadly, the figures scattered, panicked screams mixing with the sound of heavy hooves trampling the earth. "Keep going. Don't look back," Marcus urged, his hand gripping Emily's tightly as they pushed onward, deeper into the embrace of the woods. At last, they broke through the trees, the forest opening into a clearing lit only by the soft glow of stars. The silhouettes behind them faded, the night swallowing their cries. They were outside the grasp of danger. Breathless, Emily fell to her knees, pulling Lily close, relief washing over her like a warm wave. "You're safe now, baby," she gasped, hugging her tightly. "Mommy, I was so scared." Lily's voice trembled. "I know, I'm so sorry we got separated," Emily said, her heart breaking anew as she stroked her daughter's hair, brushing away the dirt and tears. In that moment, she was just a mother, not lost in the wilderness of horror. But as they sat, bathed in relief, Marcus turned toward the tree-line, breath quickening. "What about Mason?" "We can't let him get away," he said, a grim resolution in his eyes. Emily felt a wave of exhaustion wash over her, but the fight surged back. "I won't let him take Lily again. We have to face him. Together?" Marcus asked, a fierce look ignited within him. Together, Emily affirmed, her resolve now steeled by love. With Lily tucked against her side, they began the trek back into the heart of the nightmare, prepared to face whatever fate Mason had orchestrated. Darkness would not smother their hope, they were determined to unravel the twisted threads connecting them all. As they stepped back into the shadows, Emily whispered to herself, an echo of strength, for Lily, I will do this. The warmth of the bond between mother and daughter glowed brighter than any fear as they crossed the threshold into uncertainty, ready to unmask the truth that had haunted them for so long. But deep inside, questions loomed large. Was this the end of their journey or merely the beginning of an even darker fate? Now, you need to subscribe to the channel immediately so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this intense finale. And I challenge you to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this wild ride ended. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. True fans understand how crucial these actions are.